X-Men.
Good evening.
Yo.
What is going on? This is the X Factor. I am Al, aka Dusty Brick Brown, and my cohort, Larry, aka L Crocker, aka the Dude. I can come up with a nickname for you, Larry. My bad.
Man,
The kid, aka the Kid. We thank everybody for joining us. That has already showed up. I had a little name for the crowd that show up at night, man. We can call the chat the night crawlers. So thanks to all the night crawlers that are in attendance. We appreciate you being here. For those who watch the replay, thank you for watching. Donnie Mastodon Comics showed up before we started. Peace out to him. He said he's gonna watch the replay in the morning or tomorrow. That's what's up. Thank you for your viewership. Thank everyone for your viewership. We really appreciate it. So, Larry, how you doing this evening, man?
Good, man. Ready to get some X-Men talk going on, man. Read a couple of books today. X-Men 25, following the Hellfire Gala, man. It's pretty good. So, just ready to get this X-chatting going on.
Word life. I haven't been able to pick up anything, but I hope to get my books before the weekend. Weekend gonna be pretty busy for me, man. I don't know if anybody in the chat are avid fighting game fanatics, but one of the biggest fighting game tournament is coming on this weekend, Evo, in I think it's gonna be in Las Vegas. I wanted to go, but didn't plan for it. So I'll be watching it this weekend.
I want to tell you like this, man. Street Fighter 6 is still whooping up, man. If I told you the truth, man, I'm still in the tutorial. I'm scared to step out into like online mode, man. Cause I'm scared to take those L's, man. So it's still whooping my ass.
Hey, man, you're gonna have to take L's, bro. Cause I mean, I done took a few. I done doled out some butt whippings, some butt cuttings, but I done also got dealt with online. But I mean, that's just part of the territory, man. I love the game, and doggone, I know this ain't X-Men talk, but you know, we got Spider-Man coming out in October, Mortal Kombat coming out in September. Bruh, to be a gamer, man, 2023, I tell you, man, it is what it is. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get started on this X talk. One of the first things we're going to talk about, we're implementing a couple of new features and segments. Unfortunately, we don't have the actual visuals like we do on a Comic Con, but I'm working on it. Nonetheless, we are going to have a segment called Mutant of the Week. So whenever we do a show, we're going to actually talk briefly about a particular mutant. Since there's so many of them, you know, we'll have enough news to talk about for the next 5-6 years if we did a show every week. But nonetheless, we're going to be talking about a mutant today. And if I can share my screen really quick, the first mutant that we're going to talk about today to be the inaugural mutant was actually Larry's idea. And this mutant happens to be Colossus of Russia, Pyotr Rasputin. So basically, this is one of my favorite mutants here in the Marvel Comics universe, period. I couldn't tell you why, but for some reason, I've always had an affinity for the strong guys in a group, you know, because to me, the strong guys are the backbone of a team. You know, every team has to have a strong guy. They could be built up like Colossus or they could be built like Rogue. I mean, she's a strong woman, so to speak. So she actually, of course, has stood in as muscle for the X-Men, but Colossus has been a mainstay for forever. During his particular time in the X-Men, of course, you know, he was over in Russia and he was on a farm, and his mutant powers actually activated when one of the, I can't think of the name of the machines, but it was a machine that actually harvests wheat. It went out of control, and his sister Ileana was in the way. And basically, what happened was that his powers manifested. He was a teen, and when his powers manifested, he turned into organic steel. He tore up the little weak thing or whatever you want to call it, and that was it. Once he went off on Cerebro, Professor X went to Russia, talked to his folks, talked to Colossus, and bam, he's been a mainstay ever since Giant Size X-Men in 1974. So throughout his history, he's received a little bit of character development. Now, I think more of his character development, and you could chime in if you want to, Larry. I think most of Colossus is, and I'm about to get some music started too, but I think most of Colossus, his story or his character development has pretty much come from his human form as opposed to his armor form. One thing that comes to mind when I say that is, the whole mutant massacre situation where, he didn't want to move forward with the he didn't want to move forward as far as being a mutant at one point. So, when he went through the Siege Perilous after the Reavers had wrecked him, he basically said, look, I don't want to do this no more. He became an artist in New York and took on the name of Peter Nicholas. And it wasn't until sometime later that, he decided that he wanted to come back to the X-Men. But even still, he's been kind of that character that's caught up in conflict. And it's more internal conflict than anything because, during the whole Magneto Avalon, what was the name? The Acolytes. He was torn right then between Xavier's dream and Magneto. Of course, he went on to join Magneto, but then he went back to X-Men after Magneto told Wolverine to shreds. So, Hialeah Comic Bro, thank you for joining us, man. I'm late to getting into
Hialeah.
He's another Colossus fan. Matter of fact, he's got a statue. And if you're still in the chat, I'm gonna get that statue. So I don't say I'm biting your style, Hialeah, but I'm gonna bite your style with that statue. It's an awesome statue. But good to have you. But yeah, I mean, Colossus has been one of those characters that's always been a mainstay, especially with what's going on now in his current role, in the mutant universe and everything. I can't gloss over the fact that he became the Avatar Sidorak, and that tremendously boosted his power level considerably. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just something about him, and it's, yes, sir, appreciate that. But yeah, it's just something about Colossus, man. I don't know. It's like he's out of all the quote unquote strong men that the X-Men have had, I've enjoyed him more in that role than anything, especially when him and Wolverine's on the team and the fastball special and all that kind of stuff. One thing that I didn't realize that I found out today is that Colossus, and I mean, it doesn't matter either way, but I didn't know Colossus was an atheist. So that was news to me because I've never known that, but then again, that's just part of the trivia that's out there. But nonetheless, he's one of my favorite X-Men characters to date, as far as heroes are concerned. The villain, of course, was my man, Kenny Marco. So, but you got anything to add to that, Larry?
You're the Colossus guy. I mean, I've never really, I like him because he's part of the team, but I've never really delved into his character until honestly recently. With what they're doing with Mikhail, anybody who's reading the Krakoa stuff, he's playing a huge role as Colossus and Mikhail at the same time. So it's a lot going on. But like I said, I think his character is unique in that he's so strong and powerful, but at the same time doesn't want to fight. So that's very interesting about his character. Like even in the Krakoa era before they put him on the X-Force, he was in a farm, and he was painting, and he didn't want to do anything that Beast wanted to do. And Wolverine kind of had to talk him into it, like, hey man, we need you for this. So he's like, okay, if you say you need me, I'll do it, but just know I don't want to do it. So that's always been interesting. The Juggernaut, I thought it was very interesting that they chose him to give this Sidorak powers to. That was very interesting. That was during the Uncanny X-Men Volume 2 run that, once again, he was the powerhouse for the Extinction Team. So, but as far as the early stuff, the Claremont stuff, that's going to be your realm. But yeah, I mean, Colossus is cool, so that's all I can really add to that one.
Okay. But 2 more tidbits of information, actually 3. Colossus, and this is shout outs to, yeah, you're right, Holly. He is very honorable and loyal, and he's more of a, and I hope I don't get this right. I mean, I hope I don't get this wrong, but he's more of a pacifist. I mean, he doesn't fight unless he has to, but that's the thing about him. He's very peaceful in nature, but when he really gets riled up, he gets riled up. But
we can't forget what he did with the legacy virus.
Oh yeah, well he sacrificed himself so that Beast can make an antidote for the legacy virus. So yeah, but I do think, man, his return was it was a bit of a letdown on how they brought him back. I was glad they brought him back, but at the same time, I mean, I can understand them getting rid of him because everybody got to die at least one time in the X-Men. So at the end of the day, it's like one of them things that's it's inevitable. But I mean, aside from this,
do you want to delve into Ultimate Colossus?
Nope. And the reason why I don't want to delve into Ultimate Colossus is because I didn't read it. Yeah. Thanks for stopping by, Hialeah, man. We appreciate it, bro. And you take it easy, man. Have a good night. But no, I didn't read Ultimate, so yeah, we can leave the 616 Colossus. Oh, Apollo, what's going on, man? Gene, hey, you know what? It's funny you say that, Apollo. I appreciate you coming, man. Me and Larry actually talked about. Was it a few days ago? We were coming up with show topics, man. And one of the things we talked about was Jean Grey and Jean Grey and Professor X. We were trying to figure out which one died the most. We're gonna have a show about that. What's going on, Super Slabs? Good night, man, or good evening. Hope you're doing good tonight. Thank you for joining us. But yeah, we're gonna do a show and we're gonna have a tally and we're gonna see, I think Jean Grey got it, man. I think it's gonna be some unknown. They probably got some classic X-Men books that I haven't read that she died in the middle of a mission and they brought her back. You know what I'm saying? So
look, they had that meme about the cartoon where how useless she was because every time they'd be in a battle, all she would do is get hit and just holler. Oh,
yeah, still holler Scott's name. You know what though? That was a disservice to Jean Grey. Oh yeah, now we ain't gonna even talk about that right there, man, with the whole resurrection stuff. Jokers was out there pretty much doing crazy stuff anyway to come back. But we're gonna talk about that particular topic, man. We got a whole lot lined up for the show. But yeah, Colossus is my boy, my favorite X-Men character. He's very in-depth. I mean, I think as far as his superhero side, I mean, the Sidorak, that story arc was probably the pinnacle of where he's been thus far. Now I'm gonna say this and we're gonna move on. I still believe that someone, whether it be Jared Dugan or Al Ewing, whomever, needs to revisit that whole second mutation thing. Because one thing that I can see, if they gave Colossus a second mutation, and listen to me, everyone, this will make perfectly good sense. Colossus' nickname is nicknamed after the statue, I think, in Greece, Colossus of Rhodes, right? Colossus of Rhodes was supposed to be a huge statue that actually overlooked, I think, an inlet that came into Greece. ships and all that kind of stuff came through up under his, you know, his body, because the statue was supposedly built on two sides of this inlet. Colossus have a second mutation where he can get big like Giant Man.
I mean, that could work.
It could work. I mean, just based off
But
of
let me
his
ask
power.
this. But Colossus, and when he's in human form, when he turns into the organic steel, doesn't he also grow in stature?
He grows about a foot and some change. I think in his, I want to say in his armor form, he's 7'4". Let's see. Let's see how much I know about physical characteristics. Oh, I was off one inch. So his height in human form is 6'6". He's already tall.
Yeah, okay.
And in his organic armor form, he's 7'5". So he literally grows almost a foot.
Okay.
And then his weight is 500 pounds in his armor form. I'm just saying, man, I think it would be cool for him to actually have a mutation. And they can pull it off to where it's only in like extreme duress. And or if he can do it, he can only do it for a certain period of time before it taxes his body. But I would like to see him. I think that would be something that would be cool to explore in terms of, you know, expanding his power set, you know.
I mean, other than now, I mean, I enjoy him in that Magneto role. When he let X-Men and Avalon, you know, like I said, he was conflicted because he knew, he was like, well, hey, man, what do I do? You know, they coming. You know, do I believe in his cause or do I believe in Xavier's cause? What do I do? And he let him in, and he had to kind of feel guilty based upon what happened, just because, you know, who knows what would happen if he had to let him onto the plane, you know, so or to the asteroid. But you know, I thought that was a good run for him. But I think that Dugan's getting ready to do something with him with the McHale. I think the aftermath of that is going to be huge for him. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, hopefully they do my boy right and they don't kill him again so he could be on that list of X-Men that and the title of the show gonna be X-Men that done died a few times. We gonna use improper English in that title and everything.
Hey, look, whoever got the Hellfire Gala, the last issue, pay attention to what happens to Jubilee, man.
Oh my! Hey, I mean, I tell you, I read it. Even though I need to catch up, I went and when I went and bought it, I came home and read it, bro.
Nimrod and Moira Mateo are now the new official. Like, you gotta hate them.
I'm gonna tell y'all something. For those that's out in the chat, you know, I know a lot of people are kind of like not really reading the X-Men right long enough, but it's been pretty good. I mean, just based on what Larry told me and what I actually read from the Hellfire Gala. What just happened in this Hellfire Gala, and I will say this, if be forewarned, if you do decide to pick up the book, it is $8.99. It's expensive. There's a couple people. Jerry Dugan's writing the X-Men. Which one is he writing, Larry? Dugan
is writing the regular X-Men book.
And, okay, and then who's writing Immortal X-Men?
Who is writing Immortal? I normally have one around. Don't have one right now. Got who's writing Immortal, but I know Al Ewing's writing Red. Who else? What's that? I think Dugan's also writing Deadpool. So it's a couple of people floating around out there that's writing.
Let me look it up right quick. I will say this now. Al Ewing is doing his due diligence on he's doing his due diligence on the X-Men book, on the X-Men Red. We got another show lined up where we're going to be talking about other characters that have actually gotten a real boost in terms of character development over the last few years. And Storm, we're just putting it out there in advance. Storm is like, she is the business now. I mean, she's always received, like, you know, her due diligence over the years, but they're really making her like and the MVP right now. So Immortal X-Men. Karen Gillan. Yep.
I just went and picked one up.
So Karen Gillan, Jerry Dugan, and Al Ewing are on the X-Men books now. Don't get me the line about New Mutants and stuff. I don't know who's writing those books. But,
after Hickman left New Mutants, I forgot who picked that one up. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
X-Force has a different writer too, so I forgot about X-Force.
Mm-hmm. All right, folks. Well, we talked about Colossus for a bit. Now we're gonna get into another part of the story or the actual show. Saw a couple of articles that we gonna talk about tonight. And speaking of Hickman, the Krakoa era, and all that kind of stuff, there was an article that I found that was published back in March of this year, thanks to movieweb.com. And it basically saying how the X-Men Krakoan era is the perfect gateway for mutants to enter the MCU. Now, meaning Larry and myself, we've actually talked about this on a few occasions. And we've actually talked about what will be a good way of bringing the X-Men into the MCU. Larry even mentioned last week that he feels, in his opinion, that there may be a shakeup to the squad that we know as far as the X-Men when they actually show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that it may not be the tried and true X-Men that we, the teams that we're familiar with Cyclops and Beast and Jean Grey, Wolverine, Colossus, that type of thing. So this article was pretty interesting in terms of, how they felt like it could be done. Part of the article says with Marvel Studios planning to get their X universe up and running from the ground, studio had to wait till contracts expired. Of course, that's with Fox to pick who to retain and who to recast. Time has passed since the acquisition. We've been already given a glimpse of the future regarding mutants in the MCU. Of course, we're going to be talking about Kamala Khan later on. Namor has been revealed as the first of his kind in Wakanda Forever. The X-Men are coming, but it's not a matter of when. It's instead an issue of how. And it goes on to start to say a fresh and new take on mutant presence in the MCU. With the success of the Marvel Studio films, there's no doubt the X-Men will eventually make their way into the MCU. Question remains, how should they be introduced? One answer lies in the X-Men comics, specifically the Krakoan era that began with the House of X, Positive X miniseries from the mind of writer extraordinaire Jonathan Hickman. It's a recent chapter in X-Men that redefines what it means to be a mutant in the Marvel Universe. Then it talks about them being on Krakoa, the Sydney Island, that they were once enemies, which is now aligned himself with the X-Men because Krakoa is actually a mutant in itself. So it says here, just skipping, how will mutants come to the MCU? There are two paths to explore. We've seen how Namor was born a mutant thanks to the presence of vibranium in his tribe, and how the substance helped him evolve from the land dwellers to marine beings. However, another path could be explored thanks to the film Eternal. I didn't like it.
Don't do that.
Hey man, I'm gonna say that, man. The Eternal was a waste of time, man.
Don't do that. Eternal served its purpose, man. It was a little long, but I think it had too many characters, but it wasn't a bad movie.
Hey man, cheap politician served his purpose too for the time being. But that don't mean I should praise it. The dollar store politician just thankfully got
that was not a bad movie at all. What I say is a little long, and it's probably a topic for another story, but it's a little long because I think it's like 10 Eternals, so you couldn't really focus on all of them. But I think the movie, man, was a decent movie. It wasn't a necessary evil like Thor: The Dark World. Really, man?
Hey man, I had to think about it for a second. But I would agree with that, maybe 30%. I would say
remember none of the names.
I mean, I remember Ajax, I remember Icarus, and the only reason why I remember them for the most part is because they were in it just came out not too long ago, was Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals, which it really wasn't all three of them fighting against each other. That was like clickbait for a comic book. But Icarus, it wasn't good at all. Icarus, Ajax, Makari, and that's it. I don't remember. I mean, the Eternals have always been a group that has kind of like not gotten their footing in Marvel, because I mean they've been around since the 70s, but they ain't really that interesting to me. You know, that's why I couldn't understand why Marvel did a movie about them. But hey, that's neither here nor there. It's come and gone. But let's see here. Getting back to the article. It says, after the film's events, it's more clear that the Eternals are not precisely heroes or villains. They have a universal function to fulfill. Some of them choose to follow it while others can rebel against it. In Eternals, they don't shy away from making controversial decisions. Phastos, okay, that was one.
Phastos.
He introduced humanity to nuclear energy, but later regretted his decision. Icarus was dead set. Icarus was the Superman dude, right?
No, Icarus was like the Superman character.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you said stupid character.
Nah, they call him stupid. I said Superman. He was stupid though. But anyway,
Cersei.
Yeah, I remember Cersei. Cersei was part of the Avengers at one point though. During the 70s and mid 80s, she was actually a long-standing member of the Avengers, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so Icarus was dead set on fulfilling his role to help the birth of new Celestials, even had to kill his teammates. What's been done by the other Eternals during their tenure on Earth? Druig was already experimenting with isolated societies in the film. He could have easily spiked the human genome to make mutants a reality with the help of Cersei. So, question. Just based on these two, we're going to do a little pondering for a few minutes. So, based on these particular options, which one would actually be the most feasible way that the MCU could bring in mutants? Would it be through the Celestials, or would it be through...
What I would say is, the MCU has kind of taken the regular stories that we get and mixed it with the Ultimate Universe. And in Ultimate X-Men, mutants weren't born mutants. It was something that they actually created. I don't know if they would mix the Ultimate Universe like they did with, because the first Avengers movie is nothing but arc straight out of Ultimate Avengers. Samuel, the whole Nick Fury is dead out of Ultimate Avengers. So everything that they've done is kind of been a mixture of the Ultimate Universe with their own writing. So I don't know if they would actually take that whole mutants were created thing and throw that into the whole MCU thing with the X-Men. But out of those two, I would say the Krakoan way would probably be better, just because the Eternals route is a little convoluted right now. We first gotta learn what we're gonna do with the Celestial in the middle of the ocean.
Which they hadn't actually touched on since the Eternal. Man, how many movies have come out since that?
I think they touched on it briefly in She-Hulk, but I think we gotta do something with that first.
I would agree, because but then when in She-Hulk, they didn't really go over it. They just mentioned it. Was like a news story or something,
right?
And they just mentioned it, so it wasn't really something that they explored. Yeah, that is a big plot hole. Because even with then Spider-Man, the last two Spider-Mans come out after Eternals, right?
I gotta figure out where the Eternals fits in the whole timeline.
I'm sure that last Spider-Man movie had after the Eternals. What's going on, Chef RD? Thank you for joining us, sir. Glad you can make it. But I think, that's something they're gonna have to explore. But let me ask you this then: if they decide to go the Krakoan route, because I think honestly, the Eternals, with that whole Phastos, whoever they just said in the article, man, got short attention span. But with them actually experimenting with different societies and stuff, wouldn't that make for a better story and put it in the continuity with what's already there? Because they're gonna have to really do some explaining with.
I don't think so. I mean, if you break it down, basically with Kamala Khan, with what they're doing with her, she's already here. So if they're saying she's a mutant, then you already know there are more out there. And now all you got to do is focus on the other ones. And the island part is easy. You know, that's where they are. You know, now I don't know if you're going to actually flesh out the history of Krakoa in the movie, but for them having their own island, that makes perfect sense.
But what I'm asking though, is how are they going to reconcile that into the MCU? You got a whole island of mutants, and all this stuff done happened from Iron Man up until current, and nobody knew that there was an island. You really don't have to pay it any attention because they stayed in themselves. But let's just say, and I'm just gonna throw a storyline that just comes off the top of the dome. Let's just say, for instance, okay, they're on their island, and let's just say now Professor X or whoever they want to use can use the cerebral helmet, and now Kamala Khan is in New Jersey, and she's just found out that she's a mutant. Okay, now let's go get one of our own. So now they come off the island to go get her, and there you go. You know, you could do it a ton of different ways. It's just a matter of it can be done off screen. I mean, I don't know if you would actually like that, but a lot of that could be done off screen. I think the X-Men are too big of a property, man, for them to just write them off screen or something that big off screen. And it could be, I mean, Apollo might be on to something if the Illuminati was, if they were keepers of the multiverse. Man, they could have known that, you know, mutants existed, and
they had to. Professor X was right there.
Right. I mean, he was from another universe, though. But I'm talking about the main Marvel continuity, as in, which is the movies version of 616. I don't know. I mean, it could be, they could go anywhere with that, man. I mean, for them to be off the grid like that is possible. Because, I mean, mutants are one of the most technologically advanced species of sentient beings on the planet. I mean, you got a cat named Ford. You'd have to bring him in the mix or something like that. You know, he pretty much camouflaged the whole island to where nothing could, you know, they ain't like in the middle. It's possible. I mean,
if they didn't know Wakanda was there, it's definitely possible for them to know that the Krakoa is not there.
I think if they go that route instead of the Eternals route, I think what they would need to do is actually drop more Easter eggs in upcoming like shows to kind of make it a little bit more like plausible. Like, yeah, they've been out there all this time.
I think they ought to do just what they did in the Miss Marvel show. Each new show they come out with should technically showcase or introduce in some form, drop an Easter egg to a mutant. That way, you don't have to waste a lot of time when you create the X-Men portion. You don't have to waste a lot of time really on how they got there. Hey, they showed up in these shows. Now we're gonna put it all together. You know, and I think that's what the Disney Plus shows are for. Miss Marvel was created. You give her 6 episodes. Now, boom, you put her in the Marvels. You don't have to waste a lot of time on her backstory. You just get straight to the action, and her joining Carol Danvers and Photon, or to get to, you know, like, you don't have to go through the origin stories, man. Captain America, the first Avenger, then wait through, you know, because when the Soldier started out, it was all action because the origin story was gone. But, you know, when you have to sit through an origin story, even though, hey, I'm a huge Marvel fan, huge MCU fan, origin stories are not fun to sit through a lot of times. You know, they kind of, you know, drag along, and you're like, man, I wish they had did this, I wish they had did that, and you don't get that till 2 years later in the next movie.
I can get that. I mean that is. I mean that's plausible. But you know what? I just thought of something. They've been dropping hits, you know, in She-Hulk. They actually dropped. Remember they dropped that Wolverine teaser. A man with claws was fighting in a bar. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, man. It just depends, man. I look forward to the X-Men showing up in the MCU, man. But you know, and I know hindsight is 2020, but I wish they could have showed up in their totality back when the MCU first started. But you know, can't cry with spilled milk.
Now, also Deadpool, we have to wait to see what Deadpool is all about because they've already rumored that Jean Grey, Scarlet Witch. There's a rumor that they fight. There's a rumor that Halle Berry put the blonde hair back on with short, and so they think that she was filming. So I don't like they do the Cyclops very much, but I would welcome the lady who played Jean Grey back. I would actually welcome the lady who played Rogue back.
Really?
Yeah.
And
I mean, they would have to change her character, of course, because she's supposedly. I hope she would be grown now. But I don't think she did a bad role. I think she worked with what they gave her.
I think in terms of casting, I mean, we got 3 of them up here. Fam, I think her name Famke Jensen. I think that's how you put Famke Jensen. She was a pretty good. She was cast. Jean Grey was cast pretty good with her. Mm-hmm. I think she could have actually had potential moving forward as Jean Grey in X-Men. And oh boy, it wasn't too bad either. But the guy that played Cyclops, man. I mean, no. Because I'm gonna tell you what jacked him up. It was the script. Them X-Men scripts were not meant for him because, of course, he had to play second fiddle to Wolverine. They didn't do, and you know how I used to be about Cyclops until Avengers versus X-Men. I always thought Cyclops was a chump. But I will say the X-Men trilogy, the first X-Men trilogy, they didn't do Cyclops a service. They did him a disservice, basically.
I think they wrote him like they wrote him early on. That he was just Professor's do boy.
He was a chump in the movies, man. He was a chump.
That's how Wolverine used to do him the early days, man.
But
even in the cartoon, man, when they wrote the cartoon, the episode he punched him in the stomach, and he was like, "Hey, I go where I want to go." He's like, "I'm through."
But at least you can say in the comic book, in the X-Men cartoon, Cyclops didn't back away from him, But I kind of agree with that. Like, I think Cyclops was more of a Boy Scout type deal, and it took him to actually become militant for people to like him. Because like I said, I didn't too much care about Cyclops until, Professor X died in that Avengers versus X-Men. Well, actually before then, when they were in San Francisco.
Cyclops was always that dude, man. Look at Cyclops' history, man. He's the ultimate player, man. He dumped one lady, man. Guy got with the clone. And then when the real one came back, dumped the clone instantly.
Cyclops is like Scott Rock had them all.
Sent his baby into the future. Hey man, this is a world class dude, man.
Hey man, this dude got the most convoluted history in all the comic books. I mean, his lineage is all over the place. Rachel Summers is his granddaughter. Come on, dude. Where are all these people coming from? Nate Gray and everybody. His bloodline is about as bad as Wolverine's, though, for real. So anyway, we're gonna move on to the next article. This was published a few days ago, and this is courtesy of Screen Rant, staying in topic with the MCU. 12 X-Men Fox felt that Marvel can finally fix in the MCU. Now, let me just say this, y'all, and thank you to everyone that's actually here in the chat. This should have said the X-Men that Fox failed that Marvel could finally fix in the MCU. Because I'm gonna tell y'all something with this particular list, and we're gonna go through the list real quick. Fox messed up the X-Men big time, in my humble opinion. They took everything that they could, and I still am a firm believer of the fact that I think what they did, they had a hat. And, you know, there's so many different X-Men in the Marvel universe. They took a hat and they just wrote 9 names. Blob, Herman, Pyro, Avalanche, Beat, Artie Lang. They took all them names and they just put it in a hoodie. They didn't even put it in a hat. They put it in a hoodie. And they mixed that sucker up and they said, look, we're going to do a movie. This movie going to be first class, but it ain't going to be about the original X-Men. So what we want each one of y'all to do at this table, we want y'all to pull out a name. And that's what they did. Ain't no reason why Azrael, Azazel, or whatever his name is, should have been in the movie. Azazel should have been in the movie with the Banshee.
The first 2 Bryan Singer movies, although not perfect and was so far out, I think at that point in time, superhero movies weren't what they could be. So I think Fox was taking a gamble by even stepping out there with the X-Men, and they had success with that. So naturally, they came back with X2, and they ramped up the formula that they succeeded with on the first one. That third movie, everybody has problems with trilogies. That Spider-Man, X-Men, Batman, I don't care who it is. That third movie is just, I agree with you on that one. I think they just say, hey man, let's take the Phoenix storyline, but let's just do whatever we want to do with it. And it came out terrible. The First Class movies, the First Class trilogy, the timeline is just so screwed up, man. With the Hellfire Club, Emma Frost and Shaw. I'm not even mad they got Kevin Bacon to play Shaw. I ain't even mad. I can be mad at that. I'm not even mad at that.
Footloose should have never been.
I'm not going to be mad at that.
Kick off.
We're going to look past that and just say the timeline and what they were doing. They were trying to set off World War III. I'm like, what is the purpose of this? So I say the storylines, and I'm not even mad at the mutants. I just said the storylines were just terrible.
You were so
like Havoc and Cyclops, and so I think the timelines and just what they did with them were kind of off.
Everybody cut Footloose. Kick off the Sunday shoes. What up, Matt Odom? Third movie was All Bridge and a Mute. That's right. They put all their eggs in a basket on that San Francisco bridge scene. For real. Food foul.
Well, look, man.
Shout out to making food foul.
Wolverine can only carry you so far, right? So you have to start writing things to help you out when you played Wolverine out for the first 2 movies. And even with the First Class trilogy, you see what happened there when all else fails, you go back to Wolverine for Days of Future Past.
So it's a shame, man, because Wolverine to me is akin to Batman, the DC motif. You know, like when all else fails, and I have nothing to
like the claws.
But I mean, still though, you got all these other people, man, that I feel like could be just as good as Wolverine. But I mean, it's just Wolverine has got curb appeal. So, you know. But anywho, this article came out a few days ago. 12 X-Men Fox failed that Marvel can finally fix in the MCU. They throw everybody in the trash, personally. Marvel Studios has the opportunity to redeem wasted X-Men characters from Fox franchise when they debuted in the MCU. Characters like Jean Grey, Rogue Gambit were misused in the Fox's X-Men franchise. Gambit wasn't really used. I mean, he was in that Wolverine movie, but that was terrible. Like, man, I'm thinking about Will.i.am. Never mind. Okay, so the MCU can offer a fresh take on X-Men. He died like a chump too, man. Like Cyclops and Shadowcat, providing more depth. So this is their list. This is a no-brainer. But the thing of it is, though, they're gonna have to bring. And let me just say this: I've not been a fan of Jean Grey, but she has been very. And I'm not a Jean Grey hater. Let me just say this. But what I will say is that Jean Grey is an important piece to the X-Men mythos. A lot of stories have revolved around her, and rightfully so, because the Phoenix Force, her and Scott, provided that the MCU goes down that path with Scott and Jean being a couple in the X-Men, that type of thing. And even outside of that, you're looking at an individual that is an Omega level. I always get this confused. She's an Omega level telepath, and she also knows telepathy. So that actually adds to her value in the overall scheme of things. Plus, she wields the Phoenix Force whenever they give it to her. They never even explain what reason. They kind of did, and
yeah, they tried. It was
at the beginning. Yeah, it was very convoluted. Where they were showing Wolverine going through them stages of his life and stuff, and then later on in the movie, they kind of gave some juxtaposition, but they didn't really go into detail. So they did give you the idea that Wolverine was old as dirt. I think he's like 150 years old or something, because he was born like in the 1800s, something like that. But anyway, I think Jean Grey would do well, provided that they use her, because there's so many mutants. But I don't see why they wouldn't use her.
Jean Grey was perfect in certain, like, I don't know if you saw the Dark Phoenix movie, but
no.
when they went to get her, or even in the other one, when they went, the whole scene where they go get her because Professor X knows how powerful she is. That's a scene in itself.
Oh yeah. Oh, you talk about hold on. That was the X3.
Well, they also have a scene like that in the Dark Phoenix movie where Mystique dies. Well, but not to get that away. If anybody's ever seen the movie, but,
I don't think nobody cares.
if nobody's ever seen the movie, but that whole thing in itself, man, showing how powerful she is.
G-Man, what's up?
But showing how powerful she is, that I think you have to have that. I think they just ruined it with the whole Magneto thing, and I think Magneto should be on this list, because I think when Fassbender came in, I think he was perfect to me. I think the older guy, I put up with him because it's what we had at the time, but Fassbender is the Magneto that we needed. But Jean Grey, I don't think she was misused. I think she was perfect up until they messed her up in the X3. I think she played her role perfect.
I would still like to see Fam. If they're gonna do an older Jean Grey, I would like to see Fam Jenskin come back. They probably won't use her, but I wish they would, because she actually, to me, she wasn't bad in that role.
The only thing about it is, if you're looking for longevity in the role, you kind of have to go younger.
Yeah, that's true. So
she wasn't bad. Once again, for people who've seen the movie, she was the lady on the screen wasn't bad.
All right, so we got number 11, Maria D. Encanto, aka Rogue. And thanks for joining us, G-Man. We appreciate you being here, bro. Now, I didn't like her in X-Men, in none of them, because they made her out to be more of she was more, now you talk about like the cartoon version of Jean Grey. She was basically the cartoon version of Jean Grey in the X-Men. She couldn't do nothing to save her life, like for real. Like she was always dependent upon. I think during that time frame when they did these movies, they just had her in the movie because she was quote unquote Rogue. They really didn't as far as what Rogue is capable of doing.
They almost put her like in the X-Men evolution role, almost like where she was trying to learn her powers, and she was at the school, but she was young. I don't know how they kind of once again, that's one of the characters that I think they had maybe the right casting, but terrible scripting for her character. So yeah, I would say she was misused because I think having Rogue on your team, you have to explore. Okay, I give you the first movie where I even give you the second movie where she with Bobby and whatever they had going on. But by the third movie, if you include her in the movie, you need to have her doing her thing with her powers. She's a character you can't afford to waste, based upon how popular she is in the comics and the cartoons and just the lore. You can't afford to waste Rogue.
And if my memory served me correctly, she was pretty much useless in X3 too.
Yeah, oh yeah, she was useless in all of them.
That was a waste.
Now she did help in one scene where Wolverine got shot on the front porch and she was able to take Bobby's, power. Was it power or Bobby's power?
I don't know.
X2.
I think I remember when Bobby fighting. Well, he fighting Pyro.
He took Pyro's power because he was trying to blow him up and she took his power so he couldn't set everything on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, she used her powers in some instances, but I think they should have just brought that more out. So
honestly, man, I think her role. Well, let's go to number 10 first. Yeah.
You can go on past that, man. Like you said, was he ever once again, waste of a whole character.
Okay, I'm gonna have to play this for both Rogue and Gambit.
Emotional damage.
Well, look, you should play that for Gambit and DaCosta.
Hey man, hey, nah, we gonna leave that right now. Emotional damage for Rogue and Gambit. You might have some more emotional damage on this list. So,
man, the whole list.
Right, for the whole list, emotional damage. Okay, so we gonna skip. You know what? We gonna skip him too. And I'm gonna tell y'all the reason why. Because for one, he happens to be like whenever we do our list of favorite mutants, he's one of my favorite mutants because he was an original member of the New Mutants, right? I don't even remember this dude. I know he was in Days of Future Past, but his move set wasn't nothing like it was in the comic. If I'm not mistaken, my memory is coming back to me. He threw lava or something.
I think they had him, man, but I think he was helping them defend the fortress. It was real, small. If you blink, you probably would have missed it.
He was, if I'm not mistaken, he was at the beginning when they were fighting the Sentinels.
Mm-hmm.
And it was him and Bishop and Storm.
Psylocke and Blink.
Was Psylocke in that movie?
I might be getting that confused with Apocalypse. But I want to say
he was in Days of Future Past. I don't think he was in. But then again, I didn't see.
I might be getting that
Avenue, so I don't know. That was, and this is what I keep telling people. When they threw him, it wasn't no purpose for them to throw him in this movie when they turned around and did a New Mutants movie and recast another Sunspot. That was dumb.
Well, I think, man, that for the scene they had him in, you got an apocalyptic scene where you got X-Men that's just fighting to save everything. I don't think it was a bad scene. I just think it was. They should have expounded upon the character.
There ain't too much exposition they can give them when they fighting for their life. I mean, if anything, I think that scene should have been a little bit more fleshed out. I get what they were trying to do. And may I say that Days of Future Past was an okay movie. It still wasn't one of my favorite X-Men movies. X2 holds that distinction. But Days of Future Past was okay. As in like a 4.55 in that area. Jubilation League.
And let's start out, man, by saying that Generation X movie, man, or that whatever came on Fox or whatever channel came on, man, that was the pits. I have no idea who even came.
But you know, I say that I've never watched it, but you know, at some point I'm probably gonna have to watch it because we're gonna probably talk about it.
Man, that is the pits.
So you good, G man? That's actually Matt. Yeah, that's Matt's alter ego when he ain't taking pictures and stuff. But she was probably the most comic accurate looking character in the movie, but she served no purpose. You know. Matter of fact, from what I read, she wasn't even in that much of the movie, was she? In the X-Men Apocalypse?
Nope.
Man,
you seen Apocalypse either, man?
No.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, what I'm about to do, man? Look, it's got to be a Saturday. We're gonna come over there, man. We're gonna have to. Hey, we're gonna do the show, man. We got to sit down and brave through it.
I mean, at some point, yeah, I'm gonna sit down and watch the ones that I didn't watch, man. But you know, I was so disgusted, you know. But yeah, I can't really speak on her. But from what I read, her role, they had like a deleted scene with her in it that was floating around on
Yeah, what you got right there is pretty much about the equivalent of what you got her in the movie.
Now, I do disagree with this. Jubilee is one of X-Men's most exciting characters. I don't know about that.
Hey, man, how can you disagree with that, man?
And Jubilee, I ain't taking nothing away from her character, but Jubilee's shine was primarily when she was teamed up with Wolverine to give her that rub. All right.
I think when she became a vampire, it was cool.
I forgot he was in First Class. Darwin.
And I think they did his power set well up until they killed him.
Which actually is dumb because technically his powers prevent him from dying.
In that case, it should.
I mean, that's his mutant power. His mutant power allows for him to adapt to any situation.
Yeah, but then he died in the comics, though.
We came back though.
I guess. Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying, like his whole shtick is that nothing can kill him.
Yeah, he's supposed to adapt to all situations. Yeah.
Any and all threats. So if something was to hit the Earth and obliterate the planet, Darwin with a couple other people that is powerful enough would be able to survive because his mutant power kick in and it'll adapt to whatever situation. So just off the fact alone that they killed the dude in First Class just lets me know they just disrespect the man. They should have got somebody else.
Where is Darwin now, though? I think something happened to him.
Oh no, I have to look it up after the show unless you want to check it out. Now this one right here, I don't know. Because for what it's worth, he was probably one of the high points in X3. Now, granted, really the only way that you're going to be able to put anything in motion with this character, unless they plan on doing the original 5 when they drop them in the MCU, is through Apocalypse. Because other than that, aside from him being a rich playboy with wings, which will probably work in this climate because, you know, he'd probably be on social media and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, I don't think he would work unless he was Archangel. That's just me.
I was going to say, Warren Worthington is a worthless character unless he's Archangel, man. Like,
I mean, unless he's a benefactor, I mean, because he is rich. You know, he could be like kind of he was in the X-Corp book. And he could be a financial backer of Krakoa.
I was just saying though, as Warren Worthington, like honestly, like his character is just. I even go back to that episode of the cartoon, man, where he was Warren Worthington and Cable came out like that's trash.
Man, but you can't. I mean, you can't really fault the man because he really wasn't interested until Apocalypse got a hold to him. So you know, that's just me. He became Archangel, then he was like the business. But after that, so I don't know how he would fit in the MCU in terms They like I said, they bring him on as he could be like a Tony Stark-esque character, and people not know he until they have to save somebody. And if they do decide to use Apocalypse, he will be something he'd be perfect to put in that role, so they could turn him into Archangel. So, number 5, Olivia Munn.
Yeah, total waste. Psylocke, man, is one of the coolest characters that you could ever have from a woman perspective in a comic, and just wasted.
It goes
Can't
back
even
to
say
what I
anything
said.
else about it.
Say what?
Can't say nothing else about it, man.
I agree.
Wasted.
I mean, I from what I've read and from what I've watched, she was a waste of space. And again, like I said, Fox just randomly plucks mutants out of the blue and say, hey, we're gonna throw them in this movie with no rhyme, no reason.
Psylocke should be there though. It's just like one of those things, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, you got the power set, you got the attitude, you got she doesn't really care about much, man. Like, her morals are not intact, so she kills somebody, she kills somebody. You got all the makings there of an awesome character, and you just down the drain.
Well, it goes back to what I said before, man, and it may be the case that she fit in the movie, but like I said, Fox was arbitrarily just pulling people, and we're like, okay, well, we're gonna add you to the mix, and no rhyme or reason, and they didn't give people their appropriate shine. And I heard that even I've actually heard that Olivia Munn did pretty good in that role for what she was given.
For what she was given. Remo.
Bro, Remo. Glad that you can make it, son. Kung Fu Joe is in the house. All right, Kung Fu Joe. Glad you can make it, son. Number 4.
Man.
Black dude with dreads. Bishop was a waste of space, bro. I'm telling you. It was a waste. I mean, I'm telling you, man, it was a lot of people, man, that this. Yeah.
Bro, they could have got anybody to play that role, man. Any random black dude off the street, man, could have played that role, and how they did it.
Yeah, they could have got Tommy Davidson to do this role. They could have got Jaleel White to do this role. And Everybody Hates Chris. They could have got him to do it. Tyler James Williams. What he look like, Remo? Let us know. Yeah, this was a waste of time right here, man. And I mean, it's kind of jacked up.
Oh boy.
It's kind of jacked up. Sorry to hear that, G-Man. You know, when a person used that F word, boy, it's some serious
Hey, that's some real emotional damage.
Yeah. Fuckery. To be X-Men.
Hey, that's exactly what it was, too.
Hey, man, type this movie up when you get a chance. Remo, called B12. It's a movie made out of Africa. That's where he come from, that movie, B12. B13, I'm sorry. Yeah, but yeah, Bishop was a waste of time and space. Number 3, she was in X3, I remember, and she ran from the Juggernaut. Yeah. That was.
Well, what they did with her, she was accurate, but once again, just you got too many mutants to focus on, and they don't get the proper shine that they could get. So.
They abused the power set too. Technically, man, first of all, Juggernaut was a mutant in that movie, which was dumb. Secondly, he looked stupid. Thirdly, they shouldn't have gave him that catchphrase on the Juggernaut. That just didn't make sense. Like they just went across all barriers and just screwed stuff up.
Oh, man.
I didn't see this one. Read more time.
Tyler Perry.
If Tyler Perry would to do the X-Men, Shamar Moore be Cyclops. Oh my God, that would be messed up though, for real.
Once again, I'm not even mad at the casting. It's just I think they just couldn't focus on what they need to focus on with her.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. See, now this don't even need to be on the list.
Woo!
I don't even see why they got her on this list, because the New Mutants movie shouldn't even been made.
The movie had a good premise, man. Execution was the girl that played Magic was perfect. Everything else was terrible. That's a hard watch.
Honestly, man, New Mutants should be if Marvel and Disney play their cards right, the New Mutants should be a TV show. And I don't know if they'll,
Yeah, I could easily it's been a Disney Plus show.
I mean, it could be a Disney Plus show, and they delve into the movies, like whenever they have like a big, hullabaloo, New Mutants is on the scene. Keep it tied to the movies, franchises. But I don't think, and this is coming from a huge fan of the New Mutants, the Volume 1 New Mutants. I think they should be relegated to TV, to Disney Plus series, 6-8 episodes per season. But as long as they do it right, Remo, see, this is the thing. The New Mutants need a supporting cast. You can't just throw the New Mutants on everybody like they did with this movie and be like, hey, y'all, we got some New Mutants. Because people are like, who are they? Casual moviegoer ain't going to know who Sunspot and Cannonball and Mirage is.
But if they done the movie right, man, not try to a semi-horror movie, I think people would know who they are. I think that was the failure in the movie. That trying to do the Demon Bear and trying to make it a horror movie, didn't really, once again, you didn't showcase each character. You showcase Magic, but you didn't showcase the rest of the characters the way you could have.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. So I guess there's going to be one of the movies I'm going to have to torment through. I'm going to get to it. I mean, for the
Hey, I say, bro, one Saturday, man, I'm going to come over there, bro, and say, hey, man, let's go.
For the sake of our viewers, we going to have to make sure we do this right. And I tell people this all the time. I was against these X-Men movies. I watched the first 3. I watched Days of Future Past, and I've not watched any of the other ones all the way through. I have not willfully sat down and watched any of those other movies all the way through because I just felt some kind of way. But because we have this show,
Apocalypse with Dark Phoenix.
I've not seen that one. I've not seen any of the first class movies. I don't know how many of those are there.
I got you. Okay.
So, I mean, I know I'm going to have to watch them because we're going to talk about them. But, I wouldn't, it is what it is. But because we have this show, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do my due diligence, even if it...
It's going to be rough, boy. It's going to be rough.
We're going to set that up. And we're going to have to watch at least... I can't do 3. We're gonna have to watch at least 2. We watch 2 movies and maybe a couple of episodes.
Hey, look, man, we got to do a reaction right after, so I can show y'all his face after.
Y'all, I'm pretty sure there's people in the chat and folks that'll watch after the fact. When you are like, when you grew up, or when you've grown up reading a particular property or reading a particular comic book, you tend to get emotionally invested. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm emotionally invested because the X-Men I've been a fan of the X-Men for a while. And, when First Class came out, man, I thought that was sacrilege. Like, how dare y'all do this to the X-Men? This ain't no First Class team. This is the Walmart Sam's Choice team. That's what this is. Costco. Cost Cutter, deodorant from Kroger. Shout out to Kroger if you know what I'm talking about.
Look, I don't mind them taking liberties with the property. X-Men Evolution and Wolverine and the X-Men are two. I like both of those cartoons, and they took great liberties with both of those. But if you're gonna take liberties, then you have to make sure it hits the mark, because when you go away from the material so drastically, and when you fail, man, it's just it's bad.
Well, see, this is the thing. They took liberties, but they kept it as close to the essence without just totally abusing it. I could watch X-Men Evolution and X-Men animated series, and I could watch the anime too. And I don't have a problem watching them because they at least tried to keep the essence of what the X-Men was. But when you do something like throw Leech in a movie with Kitty Pryde running, chasing, and Juggernaut chasing them, and then they phase him through the floor like that, ain't gonna kill him. Come on, man. Like, that just don't make sense to me. Like, certain things I can suspend my disbelief on, and certain things I can't. But anyway, we had the last entry. I don't know why they got the Chad looking Cyclops here, but we talked about this before we actually watched the and I agree, Paulo. It's the closest source material to the Jim Lee X-Men run.
It was a selling point for the comics.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. But yeah, Cyclops, they wrote him to use wrestling terms. Man, Cyclops was a jobber.
Yeah, he was the Brooklyn Brawler.
If Matt's still in the chat, but if you're familiar with the NWA or WCW, he was the Bill Mulkey of the. He worked in the Brooklyn Brawler. Just look up Bill Mulkey, Mulkey. He was the job of the stars in WCW. But yeah, Scott Summers has always. They've never really wrote him in these movies to be anything. I don't even think he was considered the leader. He was just there.
I think once again, the first two movies he was okay. That third movie they wiped him off the map. Like, what? No, we started the movie off, man. You kill Cyclops. I'm like, it's gonna be a long movie.
And they killed him with reckless abandon. Like, dude, is that how you gonna? And at that point, like I said, I wasn't a fan of Cyclops. Like, dude, he deserves a better death than that.
We put him in X-Men Origins as a child that Wolverine saves. Like,
all out of continuity, man.
Yes.
They were all over the place. Yeah. White Queen, if I'm not mistaken, White Queen was in that movie. She was a kid. Wasn't she at the orphanage that Cyclops was at? See, it's crazy how much I know about these movies and I ain't never watched them. Oh, man, it's stupid.
It's all bad.
Yeah, but Cyclops I would like to see Cyclops in a feature role in the MCU, if not as a leader and advisor. And again, this is coming from someone that has not always been a fan of Cyclops. I'm still not a fan, but I do respect his character more as the years progress. So
yeah.
I think
he's in my top 5. Man, I respect Cyclops.
Yeah, he's like Rodney Dangerfield. He needs to get a little respect. Birdman put some respect on Scott Summers' name. So, all right, folks. Well, that's gonna do it for this particular segment. Like I said, we're gonna have some drops coming soon to separate the segments and everything. But we're gonna actually jump into one thing really quick before we head into our main topic of discussion, and that is the comic cover of the week. We're going to implement this in our shows as well. So each week, Larry and I, in addition to our mutant character of the week, we're going to show a book that we like. It's one of our favorite covers. So I'm going to blow up my man Larry. He's going to show you what his cover of the week is. Take it away, Larry.
This one actually came out today, so it's didn't dig back in the archives too deep. But when I saw it, everybody who knows the homage to this cover or homage to this cover is going to instantly know why I picked it. This book is what got me into comics, the cover. So they released X-Men 25 today, and it had a ton of variant covers. But one of the variant covers is Alex Ross, recreating the X-Men #1 cover. And of course, they're going to have all 4 or 5 to complete the covers. So if anybody's out there looking, I think they got a sketch cover too. So this is my cover for the week. Like I said, lots of nostalgia with the cover. 1991 X-Men #1 homage. I'm gonna say Alex Ross giving Jim Lee a run for his money with that beast. I think this book is pretty steep too, if I'm not mistaken. It's not too steep, but it is $6. So, but it's kind of it's X-Men 25, so I think it's double sized. So that is my cover for the week.
So let me ask you this, because I haven't gone to the comic book shop yet. So did they have the other covers
No, each week when they release one of the Fall of the X books, you have to get gotta wait week by week in order to get them.
Okay. I'll hopefully be able to pick that one up, man. I mean, Alex Ross he's a great artist, man, and just for the nostalgia purpose, because I got all the original ones, the connected covers. So to have those, $6 ain't too bad if it's double size as opposed to that Hellfire Gala. Which, by the way,
what's even worse was Marvel released that facsimile about 2 or 3 weeks ago for X-Men #1, and it was $7.99 for a book that we can find in any comic book store for
$2-3,
$4.
Yeah, that's just that was just dumb on their half. They should have just done that as a true believer, sell it for $1 and be done with it, man. That book is oversaturated. I mean, come on, man. It's like the biggest selling comic book of all time.
Yeah, I said 8.1 million copies are out there, man. And you turn around and release a facsimile for $7.
For $7,
it didn't even need a facsimile.
Ridiculous. But yeah, I'm gonna have to pick that one up. So, but I was gonna tell y'all, and this is just a key alert. That Hellfire Gala that I was telling y'all about at the beginning of the show. I would show y'all mine, but I don't know where it is. But that is a key issue, and just letting y'all know that's in that book. I think was the first 2 pages, ain't it? Like the second page.
Oh yeah.
First 2 pages. Said what now, Larry?
Yeah, we're talking about what they talking about Kamala Khan.
Yeah, they officially christened her as a mutant in that book. So, like I said, it's $8.99. So, for what it's worth, I got it because I collected, and it's a good book too. Now the damage. You talk about some emotional damage, boy.
Right. Look, when you read that book, man, if you're an X-Men fan, you're gonna leave that book, man. Like, man, what did I just read?
Put it this way, it's probably the worst the X-Men have had their arse handed to them since the 80s, the Mutant Massacre. Like, they really got dealt with.
And we talk paper prices.
Well, no, what it is, Apollo, I want to say it's a triple size issue. It's pretty thick.
It's thick, yeah.
It's
pretty. It won't fit in a regular bag and board, I would say.
Now, what I will say, I don't think it's worth the $8.99, but like I said, because I'm a reader, no, it's more than 32 pages. It might be about 64, maybe even more than that. But
probably right at 64.
Yeah, about 64. So, but yeah, it is. It's a good read. They actually, and this is the cool part. They actually, the team. They every Hellfire Gala they do a new team, and this team was Frenzy, which was she was a villain at one point. Sync, X-23, they call her Talon. Guy named Prodigy, Jubilee, and the Juggernaut.
Trinity,
yeah. Yeah, it's almost like an annual for the most part, Apollo. But then Mormon, say what now?
Was Frenzy there too?
Yeah, Frenzy was there. She got dealt with.
Yeah.
Boy, they got mud holes stomped in them, and they walked it dry. Like they woo. I mean, it sets the tone for a lot of stuff to happen. I think Cyclops got his leg blown off because he couldn't feel his legs. Whole bunch of crap.
That's back broken.
That's what it was.
Yeah, back broken.
Yeah, the X-Men went through hell, but you talk about a team of people in Marvel that can't catch a break.
Now I will tell you though, what you're gonna need the free comic book day book, and you're also gonna need Iron Man 7 and 8 to get the full story. With the start symbols and everything that's going on with that. So
most of them did during that Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals. Some of them survived. Now I did read all of that. Some of them survived, but they got dealt with. They got decimated, to quote JR, Jim Ross. They got decimated and disrespected. So no. All right, folks. Well, we're not going to belabor the time. We're going to get into our main topic of discussion. If you saw our title of our show, Photon and Ms. Marvel, Photon / Spectrum / Captain Marvel 2 / Monica Rambeau, and Ms. Marvel / Kamala Khan have been christened the newest mutants in Marvel. Now, Larry can give you a little bit more backstory on Photon, because I actually have all of them except for one issue. So they just recently did a mini series. This is a spoiler alert, with Monica Rambeau, aka Photon, and in the last issue, they have retconned her, and that's another key too. They retconned her to be a mutant. Kamala Khan, of course, if you were familiar with the Disney Plus show, Ms. Marvel, which, by the way, I felt like was one of the best offerings that they've had to offer thus far. Of course, they alluded to, well, they didn't allude, but they said straight up she was a mutant. Then they had the little X-Men playing too. So we know moving forward that Kamala Khan and Photon are mutants now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In addition to that, it was addressed. I didn't hate it either, Paulo. A lot of people, and it was dumb reasons why people were not liking it, because, oh, it's a teenage show. It's about teenagers. I mean, come on, bro. We even had
Secret Invasion, man. You know
Saved by the Bell. Like, come on, man. You watch Zack and Screech for years. You mean tell me you can't watch this?
People have expectations, man, about these shows, and number one, I don't think a lot of the, I ain't gonna say that because she's a fairly popular character, but I would say a lot of people didn't. A lot of people don't care for the character anyway. And then I think the Muslim background and all that, 'cause a lot of people were complaining about the mosque scenes and all that. It was kind of crazy. So,
I mean, overall, man, people, they have their own, reasons and talk about agendas and stuff. I don't feel like that show had an agenda. I think they were trying to tell a story of a Muslim teenage girl that lived in New Jersey that happened to come across some superpower. That's how I see it. Now, you got some people that's sitting up on DuckDuckGo, and they're formulating their, that's an alternate web browser if you don't know. But formulating their X-Files, they're sitting up having a cigarette with Fox Mulder and Cancer Man from the X-Files. And,
not Cancer Man.
that was his nickname, man. That's my show, right? That's why I love it. Boy, X-Files. Shout out to the X-Files. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, she's now a mutant, as is Monica Rambeau. So what we decided to do is go over a short list of people who we feel like is probably going to be, or maybe, we ain't gonna say probably, but they are on the table based on what we know of these individuals. So we're gonna go back to share screen again, and excuse me, y'all. We're gonna start with the character that actually was on She-Hulk. I think two of these characters on this list were on She-Hulk, but the first one is going to be El Aguila. His name on 616 is Alejandro Montoya. So he was actually in the She-Hulk TV show. And to make a long story short, and shout out to the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, because that's how I found out about this cat. For those that don't know, those they used to have the thick. They came out in comic book size issues, but they also came out in thick issues
Yeah,
that had
like
like
encyclopedia.
yeah, like it was like basically it was an encyclopedia. I'm looking for them. I had the full set. I don't know what happened to it. I didn't sell them when I sold my collection back in the day. They had like A through E, and then E to G, F through H. And then they had a Book of the Dead for everybody that was dead and stuff. It's cool. If you can find them for cheap, I suggest you pick them up because they really put some thought into them. Class powers. Before the internet, that's pretty much how you got your intel. You know, oh, Spider-Man's a class 10. He can only live 10 tons. That's what the books say. You tell me whatever you want to, man. But anyway, he's actually a mutant in the comic book, and his ability was to he could actually emit some type of concussive or electric blast through his sword. His sword was a conductor. Now, in the She-Hulk show, he was relegated to this guy right here. But he still has his, his sword and all that kind of stuff. Now, they never alluded to the fact that he was a mutant in the show. But because of the simple fact that he was a mutant, in the comic book, there's a possibility that some shape, form, or fashion, they'll bring him back. Now, will he be a main player? I doubt it.
Look, I almost cussed. No. But look, man, I want to say, first of all, shout out to She-Hulk, man. A lot of people didn't like the show, man. But I'm going to say I like the show. But, El Aguila in the show, man, was, you really have to do research to really find out who he was, even in the scene. So, basically, he was relegated to kind of comedy relief. When they were going to do the whole
retreat.
Therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's nothing serious. But is the possibility there? Yeah, the possibility there.
Yeah. So, because I think at this point, I think Marvel or the Disney, I got a feeling that they're probably going to make a couple more people established that's already in the MCU. And we're going to talk about the one that I think might get that treatment as the last person. But yeah, he was a mutant in the comic book. So whether or not he becomes a mutant in the show, that remains to be seen. Now, there was a second individual, and I don't know if he's next. He might be.
But see, they also go back to what we said earlier, man. They're already here. So if they were to go back and kind of look at certain things, they're already here.
That may be the case, but if they're already here, they've already established that two characters that were at one point non-mutants are now mutants. So this was another character that was introduced in She-Hulk, Mr. Immortal. Now, of course, he looks a little different, but in the comic book, he is actually a mutant, and his mutant ability allows for him to not die. So regardless of what you do to him, he can't die, which to me
Great Lake Avengers, right? Yeah,
Great Lake Avengers. He's had a long-standing relationship with Hawkeye. And I think at some point he was featured in the West Coast Avengers. Matter of fact, I think the Great Lake Avengers was in Volume 1 of the West Coast Avengers, but he's a mutant with the ability of eternal life. So he looked completely different on She-Hulk. This is what he looked like on the She-Hulk show. And I think in the She-Hulk show, he was getting a divorce or something.
Yeah, he was, he got through out the window, man, and, he was like an 8-story building, man. He hit the car and got right up, man. So, that's how people like, man, what's going on? But, once again, he was a character that was pretty much comic relief. The whole show was comedy, so basically, everybody you put on there is gonna be comic relief. But just to know that they dug in deep and pulled out somebody like that was impressive to me.
El Aguila too, because you looking at people, these characters, from A to Z, this is probably a a Willister.
Right.
He's way down the totem pole. Like, I mean, Pace Pop Pete got a little bit more clout than him. Shout out to Pace Pop Pete. But, like I said, this is just a list of characters that have not been officially deemed mutants. They may never be deemed mutants, but they were mutants in the comic book. So, next is one that's a fairly popular character that I feel like could actually take that route of a mutant, because I don't think she's a mutant in the comic book, and that's America Chavez. With her story in Doctor Strange, the way she explained it, she was born with the powers that she had. So typically, for one of the prerequisites, because when she was explaining how they gave a little backstory and how she, was in that, I don't know specifically, on that planet, with the two moms and all that kind of stuff. She basically was saying that she was born with the powers that she had.
I never really thought about it like that.
Yes, so technically, she could very well be a mutant just based on that, because she was like in her teens in Doctor Strange, and for those that know the mutant lore, typically mutant abilities, with a couple exceptions, show up during puberty. So if they wanted to make somebody a mutant, she would probably be a prime. She would probably be on the top of the list, considering what they did with Kamala Khan. So, but yeah, she's super strong. She got flight, don't she?
Oh yeah, she's got pretty much everything, man.
Teleportation, the whole nine. So.
Yep. Vulnerability, flight, like the teleportation. Yeah, that's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. So I think if they're going to do anything with making mutants, out of the two that we just talked about, she probably would be high on the list. Yeah. This is what she looked like, of course, in the movie.
Now, I didn't think they captured her essence very well as far as the casting, but hey, I wasn't mad with it.
So, Big Shaq, how you doing this evening, sir?
You gotta say it right, man. So, the immortal
Big Shaq. But yeah, glad you joined us. But yeah, if anybody that will probably get the mutant treatment that hasn't been deemed a mutant, I would think America Chavez could probably be on that list, just based on how they explain her history in Doctor Strange. So, all right. So next, this might be a duplicate. Yeah, it is. All right. This is Ursa Major. Ursa Major. For those that don't know, Ursa Major, Mikhail Ursus, was actually in Black Widow, the prison where the Red Guardian was. He was a big burly dude. When he arm wrestling Red Guardian or something.
Yeah, almost got his arm broke off.
Yeah. So Mikhail Ursus is a mutant, and as you can see, looks like he's either playing cards, about to roll up a doobie, and he drinks whiskey. So Mikhail Ursus has the mutant ability to turn into a grizzly bear, and he has super strength. And while he's in that form, he retains his intelligence. So he gets really strong. I think he lifts like 10, 20 tons. He's like stronger. He'll destroy a regular bear. Now, at one point, the guy that played him in the movie was trolling. I don't know if he was trolling or not, but he was on Twitter and a couple other social media sites touting to be the very first mutant. Yeah, but I still think the very first mutant has not been. We're gonna get to it, but anyway, whether or not they revisit him and he was just a one shot remains to be seen. But he is a mutant. He was part of the Soviet super soldiers. This is the guy here. I don't know his name, but he played Ursa May. Well, he played Mikhail Ursus. So will he show up again? I have the feeling that he may show up in the Thunderbolts movie, considering that your girl Yelena in Red Guardians in that movie. So he may very well show up as, you know, the Bear, Ursa Major. Matter of fact, they might introduce this. Y'all heard it from him first. So if somebody start talking about it on other channels, they stole it. But we might actually see the Soviet super soldiers in the Thunderbolt. It's not too far-fetched. I mean, all things considered, we already got 2 members. We got him and Red Guardian. So you just missing Dark Star, and the guy that carries with the hammer and sickle. I can't remember his name. And I think that's a team of mutants except for Red Guardian. So, but yeah, he was another one that could be deemed a mutant. So if we see him again, we already know he's gonna turn into the Bear.
Throw something crazy out there, man. You think you see Omega Red?
I honestly think we will see Omega Red in the MCU based on what we get out of Deadpool.
Okay.
I think Deadpool is going to lay the foundation. I think Marvel is going to. Good night, G-Man. I'm glad you showed up, man.
Appreciate it, G-Man.
No problem. Anytime, sir. You take it easy and have a good night. But I think at some point, like I said, if we see or hear anything about the Soviet super soldiers, he's probably going to be in that movie. I don't know. This is just speculation, but I don't think they would have invited him or invited him. I don't think that they would have actually put him in the movie for no particular reason, unless he was just there just to be Red Guardian's, opponent. That arm wrestler.
I think for them to let him get on Twitter and say that, because I'm pretty sure Marvel's pretty guarded about the stuff that gets out, especially on official Twitter feeds.
Yeah.
I think, man, that it might have some legs.
It might. We'll see. All right. This is the next to the last one. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to do this one. This was one that I actually thought of off the rip. Speaking of a possibility, and this is just, I'm just throwing this out there on the wall, y'all. Red Guardian is supposed to be the equivalent to Captain America, but they don't really go into any detail in the movie in Black Widow as to how he got his powers. So, like I said, this ain't nothing concrete. I hadn't seen this on anybody's YouTube channel. But I'm thinking because he actually has a role in the Thunderbolt movie, and considering that Bucky Barnes has a role in the Thunderbolt movie, I think they have wiggle room to change his origin. So it's a possibility that we could see him as a mutant. I mean, that ain't set in stone. But because of the way that team is structured, the Thunderbolts team, I think they're gonna try to explain his super strength in another way, aside from,
I think the only reason the Red Guardian is in there was because people like his comedic chops in Black Widow. That's the only reason I think.
I don't know, man. I think it's a reason aside. It could be, but I think it's a reason aside that he's in the movie, man. I think he might play a bigger role
Once again, I don't know if you saw that comic book that's coming out in November, but they got a comic book, man, with the Thunderbolts team that looks eerily similar to the MCU Thunderbolts team with I think the addition of Black Widow, Natasha, and I think Natasha and Elaine are both on the team, and then you got Shang-Chi, which is a wild card. So, but other than that, you got Bucky Barnes, Red Guardian, Natasha, Elena, Shang-Chi, and I think it's one other, like Taskmaster, but I think it's one other character too.
Yeah, like I said, this is just something that I off a whim decided to throw on the list. I mean, he might get killed in that movie. We don't know. But we'll see. If any of this stuff comes true, we'll have a reference to come back.
We'll rewind.
Yeah, and we'll be like, we told y'all so. But I don't know. Last but not least, this person was actually, I want to say they called her a mutant without calling her a mutant. And that's Wanda Maximoff. And Apollo, you mentioned her if you're still in the chat. The WandaVision show. A lot of people don't realize, or a lot of people missed it. I can't remember if it was that. How many episodes did WandaVision go? Was it 6 or 8?
I think it was a little bit longer than 6. It was 8. I want to say 8 or 9.
Well, whichever one it was either the episode before the series, the season finale, or was the episode before the episode of the season finale. But in that episode, they actually gave some backdrop to her past. And in that episode,
where what's her name took her to the past,
Agatha Harkness.
Yeah, so she could view everything that kind of put her where she was. And I'll let you go ahead and finish.
No, you good. Agatha Harkness took her to the past. In that particular past, there was a scene where her and Pietro were still alive. They were kids. And they alluded in that scene that she actually had powers before she came in contact with the Tesseract. And I think a lot of people missed that. And it's like, okay, so if you saying to me that she had powers before her and Pietro came in contact with the Tesseract, then that would only mean that she was a mutant. But they never really fleshed that out after the fact. Now, I'm pretty sure but they didn't really have time to do, well, I don't know, because the way she dealt with Professor X, that was kind of personal. But I think it's something.
I think that, I think the Tesseract enhanced her powers, definitely. I think it's just a matter of when they want to do that, because even the actress that plays her, she was at a Comic-Con recently, and they asked her what's one of the things that she wanted to do with the character, and she said she wanted to explore the mutant part of her history. And a small spoiler for people who read, a lot of that goes back to Fox and Marvel and the history of how, they retconned in the books when Fox had the rights that Magneto wasn't, the father and all that. But this week in the newest Scarlet Witch book, there's a scene where Magneto is supposed to be resurrected, but not going to spoil it for anybody like X history. But it's not really Magneto, but it's somebody that looks like him. The first thing she said was father. So I thought that was kind of telling. Are they trying to say that, are they going back to that, or how that goes? But yeah, the character that the lady that plays Olsen, she said that she wanted to go ahead and explore the mutant parts of Wanda's past, and if she has any of the writing, powers, we'll probably see that.
I think, aside from how she just blew through everybody in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, I think she's one of the most compelling characters currently in the MCU. I have gripes with that movie, but it was decent overall. But I think they kind of alluded to the fact that she was a mutant during WandaVision. Will they admit that? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe when they really put the X-Men in full force, full steam for the MCU, they may go back and revisit that as a flashback in another project or something. But that whole scene when they, like I said, somebody was bombing her city. Because in the movie, she's from Sokovia, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
So her and Pietro was in Sokovia, and basically if y'all remember the show, y'all remember the scene. But she used her powers, and they were alluding to the fact that she had her powers before she, got there with the Tesseract. So, like Larry said, the Tesseract, of course, enhanced the powers, but they were already there. She was like a young pre-adolescent at the time, maybe a teenager. So she's been deemed a mutant, but they haven't officially said anything about her being a mutant. But it would be a wasted opportunity to not just go ahead and say, yeah, she's a mutant, just based on what she's done, man. Because she did, man, the feats that she had in Daggone. I mean, she could actually be a villain.
Shout out to WandaVision. Shout out to Wanda Maximoff. Everything she's done in the MCU has been, I liked it. I thought it's been even the multiverse that people didn't like. She had to take care of the variants of those characters convincingly for her character to be what it is. So I know people have gripes with what she did, but I think the story gets what the story wants, and I think that's what the story needed in order for that particular movie to play the way it played. If she had ran up against any opposition, her character wouldn't be what it is. So,
man, she was like the Ultimate Warrior of that movie. All they needed was some ring ropes whenever she fought somebody. All she had to do was just grab the ring rope and just start shaking real hard. Boy, they put her over, man. I still don't know how she did Professor X, man.
Hey, look, man. They put her over, man. The variants put her over.
They sure did, in a horrible way. When they did Black Agar Bolthakon, or whatever his name is. But yeah, that was a short list, folks. But you know, like I said, we didn't really have much to work on because they haven't really fleshed out mutants as of right now in the MCU. I mean, they've given us glimpses. So as far as we know, the official mutants in the MCU will be Ms. Marvel, Photon, aka Spectrum, and Namor. Those are the only ones that they've actually gone out on a limb and said that they were. Well, they haven't said Photon was a mutant in the MCU, but she's become a mutant in the comic book. So it's only like you put two and two together, like, okay, so yeah, she probably gonna be a mutant in the movie too. So technically, only Kamala Khan and Namor have been deemed mutants, but Photon is she on the way. So, but
anybody in the chat, man, what y'all think about Kamala Khan becoming an X-Man? Let us know what you think.
I have my opinions on it. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the character, but I just feel like there's so many different mutants that they can choose from. That's just me. But, you know, I know you're a proponent of her being a mutant in the direction she can go and all that jazz, but...
Oh, yeah, man. I like seeing her in the yellow and blue, man. And I think, like I said, I think it's a boost. I think it's a shot in the arm for both books. I think for her and the X-Men, I think it'll help both books. But I also think, man, you could... It's so many places you can go with that now that... Put her on the team. That's, I mean, you can write a bunch of new stories now. What are you gonna do? Dig up? Who are you gonna dig up to put in a place? I mean, they're cycling through new mutants every year, basically putting them on the team. So it's like they still doing that, but they just added a powerhouse to the team as far as, you know, a well-known figure that they can put in the book to boost the actual sales of the books.
You know what? You just gave me an idea for another topic. And if you don't want to participate, that's fine. But it could be the top 10 mutants that would be better than Kamala Khan. and let me just say this: it's not like I don't like her character because I like Kamala Khan. I do, and it's funny, man, Larry. We were talking about we had that show about the favorite covers. On the Comic Hall, and I actually had some books here at my brother's, and lo and behold, let me see if I can find it. It was right up under my nose. I could have showed it on the show. Let's see here. This is the stack of books that I want to get slabbed. Or some of them in my... I can't find it. Hold on, folks. It's down here somewhere.
Like I said, if you get the book that came out this week, man, you can already see where they're going, man. The storytelling is going to be off the hook, man, with Kamala on the team, man. Hence, my tag. Welcome to the team, Kamala. I'm ready.
I take your word for it, but I just feel like there's other people that they could have used. So whatever the gambit is as far as the end game for them to do what they did, I just hope it pay off. But anyway, this is one of my favorite comic book covers.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I wish they had a version.
They do. I got a version.
Man, you ain't got to brag. But to answer your question, Apollo, if I'm not mistaken, that last story arc with the Avengers, X-Men, and Eternals, they kind of laid the groundwork that mutants were deviant offshoots. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff that they've done, I guess to line up with the MCU, because during that time the Eternals was on the forefront. But anyway, so folks, that is pretty much it for tonight. We are going to be back hopefully next week. We'll talk about our topic of discussion. If you like the show, please like before you leave. If you are here and you have not subscribed to the Comic Hall crew, please subscribe. Please check the bell notification for any shows or live streams, hauls. I know Larry has a haul he's working on. I have a haul that I'm working on. We may be able to publish them this week. I got some X-Men issues from X-Men Legacy. I bought a lot of comics, lot meaning a series of comic books off of eBay. So it was an X-Men lot, and I got a few more books I'm going to show. Larry has some X-Men stuff he's going to show, and probably sprinkle in a couple other comic books too, non-mutant related. So if you have any show ideas for us, we have a plethora, but we don't mind taking more suggestions.
Yeah, let us know what you want to see.
Yeah,
we can talk about X-Men for days.
Yep, DM us at our Comic Hall IG, Comic Hall crew, or you can email us at comichallandroundtable@gmail.com. Based on our former name.
And we love that you guys are interactive, man. So once again, if there's anything that you guys want to see, we'll be more than happy to discuss it, because we want you guys to participate as well. We want it to be an all-around engagement type thing, because it's something we enjoy. And if you watch it, we hope you enjoy it too. So feel free to whatever your opinions are, anything, as long as it's not too toxic and you ain't calling us out our names, we'll roll with it. So
yeah, if I have to do no reverse Google search, we straight. No, I'm just joking.
Be like Cardi B and throw the microphone.
Nah, man, she about to go down for some assault charges, man. I can understand why she threw it, because that girl shouldn't have threw that water, but she threw a missile at that girl.
Well, that's the only thing about being a star, man. You get golded and stuff like that, man. And before you know it, it's a lawsuit. So she should have. Yeah. I'm not telling anybody to take that abuse, man. But you gotta think a little bit smarter, man. When you're a star, you can't necessarily pop off like that, man. Because that's gonna cost you legal fees, and if you lose, it's gonna cost you a little bit of your bag. So. Yep.
But enough about Cardi B. We thank y'all for showing up. We thank y'all for being here. We ran a little bit over from last week's show, but we're going to keep it up. Like Larry said, if you got any ideas, or hell, if you want to be on the show, like I said, as long as you ain't out there crazy, trying to show nobody queens and berries and all that kind of good stuff, we'll have you on the show. Might have to vet you first, but we plan on having some open forums and some guests on the show, just people out of the comic book community. We're going to talk a bit more about everything. But if there's something specific that you want us to talk about, like I said, you can email us at the Gmail, or you can DM us at the Comic Hall Crew Instagram page. So, Larry, you got anything to say before we are out the door?
Oh no, man. Once again, I appreciate everybody once again, man. Once this show too, hopefully, man, it gets bigger, better. We love your participation. Like I say, man, feel free to come on. Hit us on the Instagram. It doesn't matter, the personal Instagram or the Comic Hall Crew Instagram. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you next week.
All right, folks. Well, with that being said, this is Al and my co-host Larry. We are signing out for the night. Y'all have a good night, and y'all have a great weekend. And if you're in the fighting game, check out Evo this weekend, because it's going to be lit. All right? All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one. We gone.
Peace.